The Table of Showbread is a beautiful picture of God's willingness to fellowship with his people. Just as a family sits down to eat dinner and share about their day, let's make a table of showbread that your students can gather around as God extends this invitation to come into his presence. The Table of Showbread is made of acacia, a tree that would have been plentiful in the desert. It is dense and extremely strong, highly resistant to bugs and decay, making it the perfect wood for desert furniture. The wood, including the poles and rings, were overlaid in gold. The poles allowed the Israelites to pick up and move the table at a moment's notice. In fact, the Levites were instructed by God to never remove the poles from the rings, always ready to leave at God's command. The Bible provides us with the exact dimensions of the table of showbread: 3 feet long, 1.5 feet wide, and 2.25 feet high. For our table, we cut some scrap wood to size. In fact, I think it probably used to be a shelf of some variety, but plywood would certainly work. Then we added some decorative crown molding to the sides, and the choice of these would be a matter of taste. There are so many choices of molding out there, and you can make it as fancy or as simple as you want. Make sure that you miter the edges for a clean, finished look. Certainly, you can purchase screw-type legs for your table, but another option is to use wooden spindles from a discarded railing. These can be highly decorative and very cost-effective. This is how we made ours, and as you can tell, they work quite well. Lastly, you will need dowels thick enough to enable students to pick up and carry the table, as well as eye hooks that will allow the dowels to fit snugly inside. These have a 1-inch opening. Once you have sanded and smoothed your table surfaces, it's time to paint. All of the furniture inside the holy place was gold. I personally like to spray paint, but whatever form you use, find the glossiest, shiniest, sparkliest gold you can find. If you don't want to measure, cut, and paint, an easy alternative would be to use a coffee table and cover it with a gold tablecloth. Or, if you can find a donated coffee table at a thrift store, it's a simple thing to spray paint it gold and make it quite lovely. 12 pieces of flatbread, called showbread, were placed on the table by the priests serving in the tabernacle. The 12 pieces of bread represented the 12 tribes of Israel. Every Sabbath, the priest would exchange the bread with new pieces and eat the old in God's presence in the holy place. It is for this reason that the bread had another name, bread of the presence. The bread they used on the table of showbread was flat. There was no yeast, to symbolize the circumstances under which the Israelites left Egypt quickly and took the bread that did not have a chance to rise. Certainly, you can use crackers like saltines or matzah. Another option is to use pita bread. If you use your bread frequently, instead of purchasing bread over and over, you can spend just a little time to preserve it. These won't last forever. They will eventually disintegrate, but you will certainly get a few years out of them. Place your bread on the rack in an oven set between 175 and 200 degrees. Dry the bread for a couple of hours, but check every so often to make sure that it isn't browning. I have experimented with a few types of finishes and found that a spray lacquer works the best. This is what the bread looks like when it has been properly dried and lacquered. It looks pretty much like bread, but it's rather stiff. Jesus referred to himself as the bread of life because our spiritual hunger can only truly be satisfied in him. But the significance goes even deeper because the night before he laid his life down for us, he shared a Passover meal with his disciples. He picked up a piece of flat cracker and said, "This is my body broken for you." Today, when we celebrate communion, we are remembering Jesus' sacrifice for us on the cross and his presence, Presence. This is Becky from Experience the Bible Creatively, reminding you that props are always better than paper.